Mike's Daily Podcast.
Today, I have it together. Welcome to Mike's Daily Podcast, episode 1590. Wow, we're getting so close to 1600, I can smell it from here. Or maybe it's that I have fish breath because I just took a fish tablet. Because you need your fish oil tablets every morning. Not the best time to take a fish oil tablet in the morning. Just fish and eggs.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Fish, eggs. Okay, I think I've examined that enough.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Today we hear from Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. Welcome to the show that is from Podcastro Valley, Mont. I have so many things that I want to talk about. First off, I'd like to say hello to some Twitter followers, including someone who smells of flowers. Make Time to See the World is the name of this one person.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I saw someone on the back of their car. They were advertising
Mike's
their Instagram
Daily
and it was called
Podcast.
Let's see.
Yeah.
To something. It's kind of like my segment, The Word of Dog. It was to something the dog. Wait, it was like you're supposed to say God, but you said dog instead. And that's what it was. Instagram, they were dog people. Hey, look who just walked in. Hi, Mac, it's Benita, the rodeo queen. How y'all doing? I'm a horse person. And it's a disgruntled fiddle player, tell you what. What? It might have been, what to dog is your dog? That's all I got. It could be, yeah. Look who else walked in.
Oh, Mike, I make the delicious root beer. I'm the brewmaster. Oh, boy. Have some.
Thank you. Yes. So people advertising their Instagrams on the back of their cars. Make Time to See the World is, I guess, doing that on Twitter. And then, Everyone is Dirty is someone that I interviewed on Mike's Daily Podcast a couple of years ago. And apparently they have a show coming up that they've just told me on Facebook.
And here's today's podcast picture.
April 20th. The lead singer got sick for a while, and she's better. So that's the band that has the great grandson or the grandson of the Soupy Sales. And, oh, wow. Somebody that I know in Alabama is visiting Vietnam. And they're sending pictures on Facebook. So I guess I haven't deleted my Facebook yet because I'm looking at stuff like that. But the podcast picture, which you might see on Facebook, or you might just see at MikesDailyPodcast.com, is of me on a green hill. And there's so much greenery in the Bay Area these days.
This show is about me, and it always has been.
It's been so green lately. Then there was a dog. Oh, and I had Basil the Boxer with me. Yes, that day where it was green. A man in South Carolina has a dog to thank for saving his life. Looks like it's a lab. Mason Ringer said he was on a lunch break with his friends when the group decided to briefly go out in a boat on the Ocatee River. That's something you get to do when you're in South Carolina is, hey, let's hop on a river. The boat capsized. One of the guys went to stand up to change his position in the boat. The wind came, the boat flipped over, put us all in the water, he said. He tried to get back to the dock but couldn't since he was swimming against the current. I took my shoes off and ripped my hoodie. People have got to stop wearing hoodies. It is getting so hoodie intense. It's like there's too many hoodies everywhere. We've reached critical mass. I got 75% across, but because the water was cold, I started to cramp up in my legs. He said that he felt like he wasn't going to make it, so he stopped swimming. I rolled on my back, and I closed my eyes and I said a prayer to God, asking him to help me somehow. This is exactly what happened to Cat Stevens. Oh, baby, baby, it's a wild world. Yeah, he said to God, look, if you save me, I'll devote my life to Islam. And that's what happened. Did you know that? It happened like off the coast of Malibu. That's the story I heard anyway. Yes. Peace train is growing. Lying on the peace train. Ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. Riding on the peace train. Then I heard the dog bark on the dock. The yellow lab jumped into the water, and Ringer was able to grab the animal's collar as the pup pulled him to shore. What a great dog. Then there is Linda Brown from Brown versus Board of Education. She has passed away at the age of 76. She was just a little girl when she was at the center of the landmark Supreme Court case that ended segregation in schools. That horrible helicopter crash that happened recently. Apparently, the pilot of the Open Door tour helicopter that crashed in New York City and killed 5 passengers said to federal investigators that the fuel supply was cut off, was turned off. He desperately tried to turn the fuel supply back on after it was switched off mid-flight by a passenger's restraint. Huh? Crazy. Somehow that happened. Then SpaceX rocket apparently carved a giant hole in the ionosphere. Punched a hole right into the night. There's no sensation that compares to this. It's something a state of bliss. Can't keep my eye on the circling sky. Tongue-tied and twisted, just an earthbound misfit eye. That was a latter-day Pink Floyd tune. Sans Roger Waters. Rockets can leave a mark on the atmosphere well after they've left, and SpaceX may have learned that firsthand. Researchers have determined that the Falcon 9 launch in August of last year put a giant hole in the ionosphere. Now researchers are discovering a mummy in a coffin thought to be empty. It was bought, this coffin, 160 years ago. They didn't think there was much to particular sarcophagus in its collection. Oh, the coffin has a mummy in it from Egypt. It's 2,500 years old. That must smell good. White House attorneys are assessing whether White House senior advisor Jared Kushner ran afoul of federal ethics regulations by meeting with executives from 2 companies that loaned millions of dollars to his family's business. He owns a property in New York. The address number is 666. Is he the devil? Maybe. The Representative Raja Krishnamurthy of Illinois, he's a Democrat, had previously raised concerns to the House of Government Ethics following reports that Kushner met with executives from Apollo Global Management and Citigroup shortly before each company loaned the Kushner companies millions of dollars. Jesse Hughes, he is the lead singer of the band Eagles of Death Metal, who survived the absolutely horrible shooting at Paris's Bataclan venue. Remember that horrible in 2015? Concert goers killed. It was terrible by terrorists. Jesse Hughes called the survivors of the shooting in Parkland, Florida high school vile abusers of the dead and claimed they were exploiting the deaths of their fellow students with their demonstrations. What an interesting turn of... You wouldn't expect that, would you? That's why I read it. Things that you thought people would do that they don't. And then Representative Ryan Costello of Pennsylvania announced on Sunday that he would join more than 40 other congressional Republicans not seeking re-election in November. Wow. He left no doubt about the reason. President Trump's conduct made it impossible to talk about anything else. Were he running, Mr. Costello said in an interview, he would be inundated with questions about Stephanie Clifford, Stormy Daniels, a.k.a., who has said she had an affair with Mr. Trump and was threatened to stay silent about it. If I had a town hall this week, it would be question after question, he says. Do you believe him or do you believe her? Why don't you believe her? While Republicans have been bracing for months for a punishing election in November, they are increasingly alarmed that their losses may be even worse than feared because the midterm campaign appears destined to turn more on the behavior of Trump. And Trump says,
nobody ever told me that politics was going to be so much fun.
As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Do we have a little bit of audio from this story? Oh, but what is it?
60 Minutes, and said she was threatened in order to keep it quiet in 2011. Daniels added attorney Michael Cohen to an existing lawsuit yesterday after his lawyer demanded an apology. Major Garrett is at the White House.
Oh, my God. It is just lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit is crazy. There. Yesterday, I was enjoying walking with my dog, Basil the Boxer, until all of a sudden, my foot was hurting more and more. But Basil wanted to keep going. He would not take any pity on me, that dog. But yet, if I were drowning in a river, I'm sure he would save me. Wouldn't you, Basil? So that podcast picture of me is... I've been posting a lot of pictures from the trails that I like to walk in Cold Canyon. Because that's where I am right now. I don't have... My expansive imagination is narrowed. It's not expansive. It's just a little dot. I don't have much imagination these days. I'm suffering from ennui. And it might be because there's a... Oh, wow, 13 downloads. 13 downloads. Let's see. What could I possibly have? Let's see how many I have from my Spreaker. Spreaker. You can also listen to the show on Spreaker. Did you know that? Yes. You go to, let's see, Spreaker.com/user/Mike Matthews. And that's, or there's a link at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. And apparently, oh my God, 8 people downloaded the last show. 8 people. 1 person played it. Wow. Wowie wow. I am just doing so good in the podcast world. Hey, look at me. You know who else is doing really well? There's a new podcast about to launch, and I heard all about it on NPR because that's all NPR talks about these days. National Public Radio just talks about people's podcasts now. It's OPP, other people's podcasts. And they were discussing a new podcast where you listen to it while you are walking, and it tells a story while you're walking, and it's as if you're walking and you're in the story. It immerses you, which I thought, and they spent about 10 minutes talking to the lady who created this, right? I love the concept. I think this, I can't think of her name at the moment. I could look it up. Actually, I have a thing to it. Is it right here? She is so imaginative, and she really was embracing the whole what you can do with podcasts. Naomi Alderman. Yeah.
This next story takes it well for somebody listening to the radio. Do you find that you write differently when you're creating an audio drama as opposed to one of your novels?
Oh, 100%. It's a really, really fascinating discipline, actually. And of course, I'm writing not only for the ear, but for the ear of somebody who is potentially on the move, so there may be traffic noises, there may be other things.
That's the thing that concerns me about this podcast, is if you're listening to this while you're walking and you're immersed in this story where you're being chased and someone's chasing you, which she actually wanted to do a podcast where you were being chased by zombies, so get you running. It was a running podcast. But what if, like, the sounds that you do, the sound effects, like, for example, a big explosion. You know, that can freak you out while you're walking. And you go, oh my gosh, did an explosion just happen right next to me as I was walking? Am I really outside with all these birds, or am I inside? That, I guess you have to, it assumes that the listener can distinguish between one and the other. But way to go, Naomi Alderman. I thought that was a cool story. But that's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is about you, me, the world, Podcastro Valley Cafe, anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley,
Anyway.
And the Cafe Anyway characters that bring me beer, that bring out their dead.
Bring out your dead!
No, they don't do that. But they bring me greetings and hellos, and that was fun. Thanks, guys, for stopping by.
Sure, Mark, anytime!
Yeah. Is it done?
Yeah, we're done. Next show, we're going to have Madame Rootabega, Valentino, Bison Bentley.
The word of dog.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!